Hello, everyone. Thank you. It's good to see a packed house. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kyle Boyd, and I'm the president of the UMass College Republicans. Thank you. On behalf of my organization, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you all and thank you all for coming. Tonight's speakers have a lot to say, so in the interest of time, I want to keep my remarks short. But before I go over tonight's agenda and introduce our three guests, I'd like to say this. We have organized tonight's event to explore one single question. Has political correctness on college campuses gone too far? As a group, the UMass College Republicans have always stood in support of the free exchange of ideas and viewpoints. As you watch tonight's panel, you may not agree with everything that is said, but we urge you to stand in support of free speech as well, by carefully considering the arguments made tonight and by refraining from causing interruptions. Thanks. Our panel will begin with opening remarks from each of our speakers, followed by a 30-minute discussion, and ending with a 30-minute audience question and answer section, where we invite anybody from the audience to come up. That said, without further delay, please help me in welcoming our first guest speaker, feminist author and Enterprise Institute scholar, Christina Hoff Sommers. Next, conservative comedian and host of the popular podcast, Louder with Crowder, Steven Crowder. And finally, journalist and senior editor at Breitbart.com, Milo Yiannopoulos. Okay, thank you all three for coming. At this point, we're gonna invite the speakers to the top of the stage to have some opening remarks. So if we'd like to start with, sure, go for it.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for. That's very strange.
Please, thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your enthusiasm. If we could get on with the show, thank you.
Given how firmly I believe in affirmative action in my bedroom, that's a very strange allegation, madam. I've taken some time out of my busy schedule, being fabulous and doing my hair, to prepare a speech for you. Well, a few remarks, really. Feminism is cancer. Thank you very much.
What Milo...
Please, if you would sit down.
What Milo meant to say, what I am going to explain, you will be pleased. What Milo meant to say is that feminism, while being a noble and valiant, courageous movement, there are certain schools of thought that are somewhat unwholesome. Right, Milo?
No, I meant it was cancer.
All right, I am here to provide some adult supervision. Calm down, young lady, please. The correct word for contemporary third wave campus feminism is not cancer, but madness. Utter madness. Listen, this is very important. Future historians are going to look back at what?
Please. Mr. Mr. Craig. Please.
Future generations will look back. Shh, okay.
I'm sorry.
3
One
strikes,
more
you're out,
disruption.
darling.
One more disruption, and we'd have to ask you to leave the venue. Thank you. Please keep your comments. Please keep your comments to the Q&A section. Thank you.
Okay. I invited her here as a demonstration of utter madness. Thank you. It's going to be impossible for future historians to understand what happened on the American campus this decade. We have campuses across the country. You have armies of... Let's use our quiet voices, please. Calm down. Stop acting like a child, and I will. Routinely, as an example of what I'm talking about, speakers are not only disinvited, but when they're invited, people come in to disrupt. They don't want others to hear. We have... Look, I'm the wrong person to be... Wait, save it when Milo comes back, okay. On campuses across the country, speech, ideas, sexuality, humor, it's being, there's censorship. Freedom of expression is being replaced by the right to feel comfortable. There's an absurd and manipulative vocabulary that has materialized, trigger warnings, safe spaces, microaggressions. Now, I first encountered this madness last year when I visited Oberlin and Georgetown University. Now, I'm a philosophy professor. I've been in universities most of my life, and I had never encountered what I'm seeing here tonight, but it was much worse at Oberlin. You're doing well compared to Oberlin and Georgetown. And as a philosophy professor, partial to logic and rules of evidence, I was disturbed at just this... At both schools, students organized a safe space where they could flee if someone was panicked by my words. And during my talk, 30 women and a therapy dog fled to a safe space. I triggered a dog. I feel bad about that. Now,
You're triggering another dog!
Now, wait. In 2015, there was a conference in London of feminist leaders from all over Great Britain, and the participants were advised not to clap. They were told that clapping could be trigger anxiety or pain in speakers. Instead, the conference attendees were told to use something called feminist jazz hands. Milo, can you demonstrate feminist jazz hands?
Yes, I can. I'm going to give you a demonstration of feminist jazz hands. Can I come up here because I need my hands? So... Madam, we're going to get through this show whether you like it or not. So to explain feminist jazz hands, I'll give you a few different variants because even the standard jazz hands can be triggering for some. Now, if you want to add a little pizzazz to your jazz hands, you can upgrade them to pizzazz hands, which is a way that some feminists express their displeasure. There are, of course, for the lesbians in the audience, scissor fingers. And if you feel particularly excited on any given occasion, you can use sizzle fingers, which I like to do something like this, which is the tearing away of the old patriarchal superstructure and the replacement of it with Whatever the fuck you guys believe in.
Very good. But what is most amazing, well, actually, the jazz hands at the London conference, those were sort of cool, and as Milo shows, but what is not cool are efforts to censor, to silence. And what really amazes me is that in their war against intolerance, these campus activists, they've taken on the extremes of intolerance. They demonize, they otherize, they attempt to censor. I demonstrate it here. And they're not even nice. They're not even nice to each other. And they do. What you're doing is hateful. What you're doing, right? It's not civil.
Please, please, if everybody could quiet down. These are our guests. We'd like to allow them to speak.
Now, where did it all come from? What created some of the forces you see in this room? What created it? How did it happen? It all goes back, I will tell you, at least the feminist dimension goes back to the early 1990s when the seeds of today's intolerant, censoring, victim-focused activism, when they were planted. It was 1992, and I attended the annual meetings of the National Women's Studies Association in Austin, Texas. And I was there not so much to participate, but to observe. I was writing an article. I was working on my book, Who Stole Feminism? And I was persuaded that this conference would provide some interesting material. Now, the conference organizers had imbibed the lessons of a theory of feminism known as intersectionality. So on the first day, participants were instructed to break down into little groups based on their grievances and healing needs. So there was a group for Asian American women, African American women, old women, Jewish women, disabled women, fat women. None of... It was then.
Oh, it is.
It was then.
There is, of
Differently
course, a point
sized
at
women.
which you can't tell there's women anymore, but believe me, it is a category of women.
Milo. Well, wait, let me tell my story. None of these groups proved stable. They all started to bicker. Members of the overweight group bickered because there was a straight and a gay faction. Members of the black lesbian group could not get along. Some of them had white partners. They were called out for their privilege, and they formed a separate group. And new identities emerged. A group of women with allergies formed, and they issued a set of demands telling us not to wear dry, clean clothing or hairspray. And it was a victimology. It was a victimology spinning out of control. It was a victimology devouring itself. Now, I ended up bonding with a group of radical lesbian separatists. I don't have that identity, but they all smoked, and by the end of the conference, I needed a cigarette. That was 1992. These eccentric women and other like-minded colleagues would spend the next 25 years using their classroom to help students see the world the way they did. At the same time, they were writing articles, books, attending conferences, task force, working groups, just a tsunami of activism. And they developed a set of advocacy statistics, victim statistics to complement their oppression theories. 1 in 4 women will be raped, 2 in 3 battered, cheated out of 25% of their salaries, and that's only if they're not already dead from an eating disorder in vain efforts to meet patriarchal standards of beauty. All of these claims are reckless exaggerations. And they have been repeated so often, they are now, in some places, beyond the reach of rational analysis. Now, this is an important part of my story. None of this would have mattered had normal academic controls been in place. Academia is full of enthusiasts with odd ideas. But if they go in for conspiracy theories and baseless statistics, they're going to get pushback from colleagues. We have a system of quality control. It's called criticism and peer review. That system has broken down when it comes to gender studies. Those women in Austin, their beliefs, their methods, their overall weirdness, they were easily as off-centered as, say, Scientology. But a group of Scientologists would not get very far in the Modern Academy. The Academy is well protected from that. But because these women were marching under the wholesome banner of feminism, and because opposing them would seem like you were being anti-woman, they faced little opposition. Many scholars just ran for cover. So their influence has grown. And now look what we have. What we have, and I'm going to end here. Today, gender scholars, along with risk-averse campus administrators and mischievous, credulous students, have formed an axis of intolerance. Now, so, sir, you're justifying your ageism. I happen to be a cisgendered lady of a certain age with serious rotator cuff issues, okay? So, today's millennials, you're going to have to decide, is yours going to be the generation that stands by as your basic freedoms are stripped away, where you can't go and hear a speaker? My best guess is that the millennials, like every generation before them, they're going to rally, they're going to defend their liberties, and I already see signs of resistance. I just hope it's not too late. Thank you.
Please, please. Mr. Crowder, if you'd like to make your opening remarks.
Hey! Thank you. Let's hear it for UMass Republicans putting this on. Come on, let them know you love him. Let's hear it for Milo. Let him know you love him. Let's hear it for Miss Summers. Let her know you love her. Time to listen up, you silly liberal fruitcakes. I came out here, I wanted to tell some jokes. Let's do some reality checks here. Do you have any idea, sir, how pathetic it must be to be you? These people wanted to come out and have a good time, hear a few jokes, some thoughtful discussion, but your head pops off the pillow in the morning with, oh, how can I be a professional victim today? Let me go in and screw with their act just because, oh my God, your parents didn't tell you that your opinion wasn't worth that much. Look, they're confused. They're confused. You know why? Because I'm not your gender studies professor who has to cater to your trigger warning, microaggression, safe space bullshit. I didn't want to do this. I wanted to come out and tell a few jokes. You created this monster. We have to go. 10 more minutes of this. Let this reverberate. Let it be a life lesson. This monster right here that you're so afraid of, the face you see in your nightmares, was created by social justice warrior assholes like you. And now you have this wonderful faggot. That's what happens. We okay? We good? Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Darling, you can call me what you like.
Oh, okay, there we go. Crying out loud, listen. Nobody here wants to hear your opinion that much. And here's what's so crazy. You couldn't wait 5 minutes. Unlike leftists, we have an open panel and a Q&A session because we want an open idea. Oh, I'm a racist. There you go. That's a new one. Where'd you learn that one in Social Human Studies 101? Right next to the giant, I don't know, wild boar I couldn't see who said there's no such thing as fat chicks. Guess what? If you think there aren't, you are one, okay? Did he just make a fat joke? Yeah, I did. And no, it's okay, because I got some here, so screw you. I have a faggot pass and a fat pass today. Wait, wanted to come out here and tell a few jokes. We wanted to have a thoughtful discussion. We want an open conversation of ideas. You guys can't be grown adults enough to literally wait 10 minutes to the point where we open the floor. And unlike leftists, guess what? We don't try and ban you when your speakers come to school. We don't show up and protest and call them, oh, shut up, you just got owned and now you're trying to come back 5 minutes later. It's like George... The jerk store called, they're running out of you, George Costanza, you androgynous little amoeba. And by the way, these opinions you're yelling out, they're not even your opinions. They're your opinions from your gender studies professor, and the really reason you picked it was because you thought it was your best chance at getting laid. You just decided to walk on in to try and pick up chicks at the San Francisco retread pot-smoking drum circle, only to realize that your very glance in the direction of a woman causes a barren womb. Oh, you think this is gonna get better? No, no. Is he gonna check his privilege? That's not going to happen. I don't want to come out here and give someone the finger, but it's because they walk out and this chick is start a show like that. This is absurd. At least when you go back to like Christina Hoff Sommers' days, self-professed Democrats, hippies, the retreads that you guys want to be, at least they thought they were fighting the system. They thought they were trying to create transparency. They really thought they were for free speech. You people are openly and completely against it. You're not fighting for free speech. You're not fighting for rights. You're fighting for the right to be a pussy and not hear opinions that you don't like. All right, I'm done. Oh. If you only take one piece of advice from this, okay? Please, sincerely, don't be an asshole your whole life.
All right. At this point, we'd like to move into the discussion portion. So as we stated earlier, tonight's topic is political correctness, or as many are calling it today, the regressive left. It's a very large topic, but let's just begin here. In each of your own words, how would you define political correctness?
Well, political...
That's it.
I got the microphone, I have more patience, I have more determination, you will lose.
He also has more pool boys.
I do. Many pool boys.
Oh, yeah, so does Bernie Sanders, dumbass.
Please, let's refrain from making interruptions and allow our guest to speak.
Oh, by the way, sorry, I did forget to mention one thing. For every unscheduled interruption, going back to the beginning of this show, I'm going to give $50 to the Donald Trump campaign. And, sorry, I just forgot to mention it. And $50 to the Yiannopoulos Privilege Grant. So thank you to the interrupters. The interrupters are helping to send white boys to college, so thanks so much. And you will continue to send more boys to college the longer you speak. Political correctness differs from etiquette and politeness in a couple of obvious ways. Etiquette is a way we all navigate one another. It's the way that we have learned to interact, to successfully negotiate social and professional situations with people who didn't grow up with our exact worldview and background. So we have a system of etiquette to enable us to do that. And some of those rules of etiquette require us to use euphemism and politeness strategies in order not to offend people that come from other cultures and other backgrounds. Now, political correctness is a little different. Political correctness describes a sort of organized system of lying, designed to save the feelings of delicate wallflowers at the expense of reason, fact, and truth. And political correctness at its most dangerous has even become deadly. Political correctness is what stopped people reporting the Fort Hood shooter, even though they knew he was into radical Islam. Political correctness is what stopped the police. It's what stopped the police arresting the rape. Okay, if you don't believe in anything else...
Could we please allow our guest speaker to go on without any interruptions? Thank you.
If you don't care about anything else, allow me to suggest to you that you might care about the rape of 1,400 young girls, and perhaps listen to the end of it and see what you think about it. Political political correctness was what prevented, or at least retarded, the police and the government from arresting Pakistani rape gangs in Rotherham in the UK. Over the course of 10 years, these familial Muslim rape gangs raped 1,400 young girls. And they weren't stopped, even though the police knew what was going on, because of political correctness, the fear of being seen as racist. So it's a sort of, for me at least, it steps outside, beyond the realms of etiquette, beyond the realms of politeness strategies, the way we deal with other people from other cultures, and it becomes a kind of organized, systematic lying, designed to save some feelings at the expense of reason, logic, truth, and very often the rights and safety of others. And not the kind of social justice safety, the horse shit safety, the kind of, when students say, Miley Yiannopoulos is a threat to my physical safety, grow the fuck up. What's threatening your physical safety? Are you worried I'm going to drop some pearls and you'll trip over them, you fucking idiots? No. But there is a kind of real sense in which political correctness in its most extreme forms has become dangerous to the rights, freedoms, and physical safety, and even the life of others. That's the difference between political correctness and etiquette. Thank you.
I actually think that there are parts of political correctness which are legitimate. And there have been things that people laughed at, and then later I thought they were right. There are certain expressions and things that are hurtful, and you learn about it, and you're a considerate person. However, only part of political correctness is about etiquette and politeness. Another part of it is simply an effort to impose a political agenda without having to argue.
Please refrain from making interruptions. Thank you. There'll be time for question and answer with the panelists after the discussion. Please would you refrain from making any further interruptions? Thanks a lot.
Did you?
What? Yeah, I want to go? Yeah, okay. You want to know what political correctness is? If you actually research the history of political correctness, it was designed as a political tool to silence voices of dissent, as you see here tonight, with people simply yelling out racist, homophobic, transphobic. Good example of political correctness trying to silence dissent. Listen, whether you like him or not, Dr. Ben Carson is a black man who's one of the most prolific neurosurgeons of all time. Oh, shut up. Shut up. I feel bad because I thought I was insulting.
Please simmer down in the middle.
Might be a chick.
Excuse me. Could you please simmer down? Thank you.
If they're going to attack Dr. Ben Carson, for example, as an idiot, racist bigot, a black neurosurgeon who was raised to a single mom in Detroit, okay? He wasn't Barack Obama. He was playing for the full-on black A team. He played pro. They're going to do it to everybody. So you know what, at this point, just keep the cameras running. These people don't want to hear any differing opinions. That's what political correctness is. You want to know what political correctness is? Look around and listen. These people don't have arguments. They just yell out racist, and they call the gay guy here who has a fetish for black dudes a racist homophobe.
Just moving on here.
I got to tell you.
Sorry, I hope I wasn't revealing anything there.
I don't know why Black Lives Matter even protests me. I've got more black in me than they do.
Just moving on here. We'd like to talk more about how political correctness threatens the academic environment. Last month, members of our university, in an attempt to, and I'm paraphrasing here, affirm the university's commitment to academic freedom, proposed a motion to the faculty senate that would oppose hate speech on campus. Everyone agrees that bigoted speech is a negative thing. But how do motions like this at our universities fail to actually address the problem of hate speech, and how can they in fact lead to other issues?
No, I don't agree that bigoted speech is always a bad thing. I think it's important to hear from them. I think it's important to hear from them. You see, what the left wants to do is it wants to enable its extremists on its own side, the sexists and misandrists of the feminism, the black supremacists of Black Lives Matter. They want to enable the extremists on their own side and silence the extremists on the other. Well, I don't like the extremists on either side. Racists, I don't like them, and they don't like me. I'm a miscegenatory, gay Jew. They don't like me at all. But what I want to do is give a platform to all speech. I want more speech of all kinds. Why? I'll explain to you in one very simple example why that's the case. And a very successful example of this was the British National Party in the UK. which unlike UKIP, for instance, which is a perfectly respectable mainstream party, the British National Party was a racist party led by a very odious character called Nick Griffin. Now, for a long time, the British National Party was doing very well, out of anxiety about, understandable, I think, anxiety about immigration and the changing nature of local communities. Lots of people started voting BNP in Britain. Now, these people weren't racist and bigots. They were voting out of anxiety and frustration. So here's what happened. Here's what happened when the media embargo, if you like, was lifted on the leader of the BNP. Nick Griffin appeared on the BBC's Question Time for 1 hour. This was at a time in which the BNP was controlling some local councils. They had successfully stood for election and won overall control of some local councils in Britain. Quite an extraordinary and not a particularly proud moment in British history. But the day Nick Griffin appeared on Question Time, and the BBC was criticized mercilessly for giving this guy a platform. This is hate speech, this is bigotry, he's a racist, how dare you put this man on TV? The BNP...
Oh, that was a clever one.
What happened, of course, as anyone with any brains would be able to predict, was that the BNP evaporated. When British people saw what the guy who ran this party was really like, they stopped voting for that party. A couple of years later, the BNP is no longer a force in British politics. This is why it isn't just important to give platforms to ordinary speech, it's important to give platforms to all speech. Because sunlight is the best disinfectant, and the best way to deal...
Absolutely.
The best way to deal with people that you don't agree with, whether they are conservatives or progressives, is the full glare of the spotlight, because you should have the confidence in your own opinions, and you should have the fortitude and courage to believe that you can beat them in a fair, open marketplace of ideas. And if you believe those things...
Absolutely right.
If you believe those things... you have nothing to fear from any speaker.
No, I completely agree, and I would say to those of you here who are screaming out and preventing us from finishing sentences, if we are such dangerous people, then let us speak. The more we speak, that should become apparent. My fear is that you believe the more we speak, the more...
Please save your comments to the
more
question and answer
reasonable
period.
we will sound, and people will realize that there has been censorship on this campus. There is no intellectual diversity, and an institution... If an institution of higher learning, like this, a great university like this, if it changes its mission from intellectual inquiry to safety and making people feel comfortable, it will lose its reason for being. Since the time of Socrates, there was debate. And if you are a superior debater, ask a question.
All right. A couple of things. Right, okay, a couple of things here. All right, we get it. You're angry. Daddy never hugged you enough. Come on. Let me give you an example right here, okay? Right now. This girl right here just yelled out that we were all racist. What? You just said you're not a girl? Should I use Z, the gender neutral? What's up? Yeah, what's up? You just yelled out that all of us were racist. And then you asked a question. And the question was? There you go. It sounded better when you were yelling it with a chorus of backdrops. Let me explain. Okay, can I answer your question? Do you want an answer? Would you like an answer? Here's what's... No, you don't know the answer, sweetheart. Let me answer it for you. Listen, you have, right here on this panel, you have a gay British Trump supporter, okay? You have a lifelong registered Democrat, open feminist, who's not a third-wave feminist, and you have a French-Canadian Christian conservative. So you may ask, why is there only white people? Because the only diversity you don't care about is that of intellectual diversity.
Right. Yes.
Please be seated.
One second.
Please be seated. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Please take a seat. Please take a seat until the discussion is over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the applause. You can continue doing that to drown them out if you need to. The final thing I want to say, come on, please just zip it, okay, for a second. Listen, you spoke, I gave you the right to have a question, and now let me finish answering. No, you don't. You don't have the right without me giving it to you.
You don't have the right.
Excuse me.
Let me finish the point. Okay, let me finish the point. These people who are yelling out, the reason they are so angry, the reason they are so incapable of hearing this is because, unlike you, the people who are conservative, intellectual thinkers, you've heard all of their opinions before, from every single mainstream news outlet, from every single film that's been made in the last 20 years, from every single professor. This is the first time they're hearing these points of view. That should be a stark contrast and tell you who's thinking for themselves.
I want to come back on something. Let me suggest another reason. Let me suggest another reason why people of color, to use the left's preferred expression, are sometimes a little reluctant to express libertarian or conservative points of view. And I'll tell you something that happened to me at American University a few days ago. Guy lined up for the Q&A, very politely, black guy. He said, I was physically threatened by Black Lives Matter on my way in here. Just for coming to hear you speak. And if you don't believe me, it's on camera. He was...
Wait, hold on. Did she just change your mind?
What?
Did she just change your mind? I think I felt a shift because she yelled shit out.
Yes, she interrupted me with a bogus buzzword, I'm convinced. And what he said to me was, what do I say? What do I say to black people who have bought into this nonsense when I just want to go about my business listening to a talk? And I said to him, well, they are guilty of the worst kind of racism. They're guilty of the kind of racism that suggests all black people must think alike. They are guilty of the kind of racism that insists...
Excuse me, Senator. Thank you for your enthusiasm. If you'd please be seated. Thank you.
They're guilty of the kind of racism that suggests that all black people must think the same. They're just in the same way that people who have problems with me being a gay conservative are guilty of a sort of homophobia, a real homophobia, which actually does delegitimize and belittle a particular group and sort of put them in a box. And he said, well, what do I say to these people? And I said, well, look, here's what you say to them. You go out, you calmly and politely, you say, if you believe that the civil rights struggle matters at all, if you believe that the fight to allow black people to have their voices heard, to have an equal footing with whites in this country, if you believe in the restitution and reparations after slavery, if you believe that it is an important goal to hear black voices, hear mine. Because not every black person agrees with Black Lives Matter. Not every gay person believes in the gay lobby. Not every woman is a feminist. And this kind of identitarian politics that we heard from the front that crucifies people who step outside of their racial or sexual groups because they have the wrong ideology is the worst sort of bigotry. And those people... And if you're wondering why people of color are sometimes scared, not scared in the way social justice warriors pretend to be scared because a conservative is on campus, but black people are actually scared because somebody got assaulted at American University the other day. If you are wondering why there aren't more people of color standing up for these sorts of opinions, you might want to pull out a mirror.
Okay, moving on to a different topic. Many students would agree that PC culture can be a barrier to discussing many of these issues that we see in the media today for fear of persecution. But let's be brave tonight and do so. I'd like to start with some of the common feminist myths that we hear so often on television and in the media. Let's talk about the gender pay gap.
Christina, you know that you're an expert there.
The gender pay gap. By the way...
Hey, you know what? You could learn something from a real lady for once.
If you will listen for a moment, the pay gap that we hear about, that women are cheated out of, almost 25% of their salary, that is based on looking at all women and all men in the workplace.
Please, at the
The
top of the house.
the highest earners.
Excuse me, at the top of the house, I'd hate for you to lose your voice. Could you please keep comments to the end in the question and answer section? Thank you.
The highest earners are Asian men. They out-earn white men by a margin larger than the gap between men and women. Check your facts and your privilege. But I do, for those who want to entertain thought and not simply slogans, which is not, in my mind, the wage gap is simply you take all the men and all the women and you average. It doesn't take into account what did they study in college, what sort of job do they have, how many hours do they work, pay work. My sources are every competent economist who has ever evaluated the wage gap. Every one of them. But you, sir, if you really are interested in learning something, I suggest you listen on NPR. 2 weeks ago, they have a show, Freakonomics. They entertained a feminist economist from Harvard University. She was reporting on the latest data, and she said, we can't find a smoking gun. We look at men and women in the workplace, and most of it is explained by...
I'm pretty sure they'll still be making more than you.
Please, please.
No.
Quiet down. Thank you. Thank you for your enthusiasm.
Stop that.
Please allow our
I
speaker.
don't even
Anyway,
like
just
but
one
that's
last thing.
fantastic.
One last thing. If it were really true that you could pay a man, a woman 23 cents less than you pay a man, what intelligent employer wouldn't fire all of his male employees and hire only women?
A salient point, Ms. Summers, one that is no doubt hate speech. Listen, it's not true. Anybody who believes it's true hasn't done their research. And if all women who came into my office, I employ 5 people, acted like you, I'd probably pay them less too.
I mean, this does present an opportunity the more unscrupulous. So many women believe this lie is true. It does make it cheaper to employ them. No, I mean, I'm kidding, obviously.
And they should not major in, you should major in economics or petroleum engineering, not feminist dance therapy.
I won't say...
Although after tonight, therapy might not be a bad investment for these folks.
Yeah, there's a few people who could do with some Ambien here. I won't say too much about the wage gap because Christine is the expert on this, but just to make an observation, I'm a third of the way through into a 66 college tour, and I am in a position to make a couple of generalizations and observations. I am stunned by the indecorousness, rudeness, and plain lack of courtesy and respect shown to respected speakers by the left, and I see nothing even remotely comparable on the libertarian side or on the conservative side. The level of rudeness shown to your fellow audience members and to respected professors is so shocking to me. And it is not, look, I go on Twitter and I go on Twitter and I do polls that say, would you rather your child had A, feminism, or B, cancer? Now, in the case of that poll, 22,000 people voted, and they voted in favor of cancer, 55-45. I had people writing to me saying, my mum just died of cancer, and I still voted cancer. I had people come to me saying, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and I still voted cancer. So I can understand why you might want to come and be rude to me, because I can take it, and I'm a provocateur, and I'm not going to do what you do, which is cry the victim afterwards. What I don't understand and I have never understood is the level of outright rudeness displayed to a classy lady who is coming here with facts and evidence to challenge your sloppy thinking. I've never understood it, and it speaks so poorly of you. And I just got a word of warning before I pass back. This is the year, just one word of warning for you guys. This is the year the public starts to see these videos. My college tour is penetrating way outside the media that is normally interested in this stuff. Your parents are going to start pulling you from college if you keep this shit up. They will not donate to these schools. Look at what has happened at Missouri. And I'll tell you something. You privileged, spoiled brats who come from nice middle-class families. Daddy pays your phone bill. Daddy bought you a car. Daddy pays your college fees. Not my daddy, your daddy. Not him. He wouldn't pay your fucking fees. I wonder what's going to happen when your parents see some of this stuff. Because let me tell you, the feedback so far from my tour has been abject horror. And I'll give you one data point, and that is Missouri, which bought into the worst kind of race-baiting, hoaxing, and lying from the student body. What has happened at Missouri? I'll tell you, two things have happened at Missouri. They have lost tens of millions of dollars in alumni donations, and enrollment is down so much. Enrollment is down so much, they've had to close 2 dorms. Do you know what those dorms are called? Strength and excellence. These are the things you lose when you buy into social justice.
Another common claim made by the radical left is that 1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted on college campuses. How legitimate is
What was
this
that?
claim?
I couldn't hear. Sorry.
1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted on college campus.
What are the thought of women being sexually assaulted on college campuses? Was that the question?
1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted.
I still can't hear them. I honestly can't hear.
1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted
1
on
in
college
5?
campuses. Correct.
Wait, people believe that? 1 in 5? Listen, that's a number that we throw out there. Are we talking 1 in 5 like Lena Dunham, who had regretful sex? All right? Are we talking 1 in 5 like Columbia Mattress Girl or Virginia? Are we talking Rolling Stone article? Almost every time that's... Listen, here's the reality. No man, no self-respecting man, except for single digits of a percentage point in population Earth, condone or like rape, okay? We didn't have a secret meeting behind your back, okay? There wasn't some secret patriarchy meeting on Tuesday, just like we didn't have some secret meeting to set some unrealistic standards of beauty, like, hey, we wasn't really screw with them. We don't even like boobs and butts, okay? So this idea to tar and feather, well, you know what? We want to talk about that. We want to talk about sexual assault. People saying there's rape culture on campus. Well, obviously, we can point out I'm sure you'll point out the obvious in the Middle East and the real rape culture with Islam and any Islamic country. Good luck finding your 4 witnesses in a Sharia court. But you know what? You want to talk about the deck stacked against you? That's not an actual statistic. Boys don't do well in grade school through high school until they finally have the opportunity to study for the SATs, in which case they blow women out of the water. Why? Because we have developed an educational system in this country that caters to women. Boys don't learn by sitting and watching a chalkboard and hearing things verbally. They learn hands-on. We've rigged the deck against young boys, and they're more confused and angry than ever. And people coming out and implying that all of these boys are somehow racist or sexist or perpetuating rape culture, you are going to screw up men for generations to come. And this androgynous, spineless amoeba here who wants to get with the social justice warrior drum circle, listen, I'm not talking about some false sense of machismo. Why don't we start off by talking about families, by talking about getting married and staying with your wife, by talking about how to raise your kids properly. Let's teach young boys to be men, but oh no, we can't do that. That'd be a moral judgment. You want to fix whatever the actual rape statistic is, and it's not 1 in 5, you need to start getting judgmental and teach young boys how to become men, but you don't want to do that because it's judgmental.
Ms. Hofstadter, would you like to comment?
In various books, I have written about this. It used to be 1 in 4, now it's 1 in 5. There's a methodology you can use, and if you define sexual assault, you enlarge the meaning to encompass, you have a very vague definition, and you have a non-representative sample of people. you can get whatever result you want. And some of the sorts of women, the women that I met at this conference years ago, they already were talking about rape culture, and they wanted to document it. And they're these clever people in thrall to an ideology. They have spent years perfecting these methodologies. And when the Bureau of Justice Statistics uses meticulous standards, they set the gold standard for research, they do not find 1 in 4. They find it's too much. They find like 1 in 53 for sexual assault. That is too much, I agree.
Please sit down.
But it is worlds away from 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 would mean that this campus is as dangerous as the war-torn Congo, where they have rape camps. If you believe that, you are deluded. And you're under an illusion. Now, why? Women who are victims of crime. I'm like Hillary right now, screeching. Women who, and I like her. Women who are victimized by sexual violence, they need sound research. They need truth. They don't need hype. They don't need wild, hysterical exaggeration. Truth is on the side of compassion.
One irony here. Okay, listen. Social justice leftists here, okay? Let's just point out an irony. The only people right now who are trying to intimidate and silence and threaten a woman here are you.
Well, moving on. I mean, certainly there are legitimate cases of sexual assault perpetrated on college campuses, and these must be taken seriously. How can we balance the needs of sexual assault survivors, the legitimate needs of sexual assault survivors, with the rights of all students to have due process?
Well, you have no choice. Your best bet, as I said, it's going to be truth. It's going to be honest research. It's not going to be hysteria. What I see happening on the campus, just as in the past and still today in many places in the world, you have people policing people for homosexuality. On the campus, you have people policing heterosexuality, especially male heterosexuality. There's the same fantasy and projection, hysteria, effort to censure and to pathologize. It's not healthy. And I know a lot of you I feel very bad as a mother. I have two sons. I'm glad they got out of college before this happened. It is astonishing to me that places like Swarthmore College, Wesleyan, that are probably the safest places on earth for women, these young women, Oberlin, they've convinced themselves that they are living in a rape culture. It is a trivialization of the idea of violence, the way that they're using it and calling Oberlin or UMass a rape culture. It's a misuse of language, and the best research we have suggests that there's to the extent all violent crime has gone down, and including rape, but it's still a huge problem, and it's much more likely, many times more likely, to happen in parts of the city, it's in the urban centers than it is on a campus. So the truth is racist. That's going to get you a long way in this world.
You know.
And that's going to help people. That's really going to help people.
It's funny, you know, I mean, liberals and the progressive left have run campuses almost unopposed for 30 years, and now liberals are telling us that spaces run by liberals are hotbeds of sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, and rape. Maybe it's time to switch things up in the faculty. Just as, and you won't like this either, just as black communities keep voting in Democrat mayors, black communities keep voting in Democrat mayors and see their cities reduced to rubble. Maybe it's time for a Republican.
With that, unfortunately, we've run out of time for our discussion section. Unfortunately, we've run out of time for discussion. Can we please get another round of applause for our speakers? Thank you all for coming. Thank you. And we'll now open it up to
Fuck you!
audience
That was a
question and
proper
answer
salute.
section.
I got taught how to do that. I was taught how to do that by a guy in the Air Force because I was doing this and it's wrong. It's temples, isn't it? It's like this. Yeah.
That's-
You know this
I
gay
think he's
thing.
thinking
That
more
was a
village
proper
people,
American
Navy. You got
salute.
that
Fuck
wrong.
you, Steven Crowder.
Watch it.
We'll now move into an audience Q&A, so if we could please form a line over here at the side of the stage. We have 30 minutes for audience question and answer, and please know that there's no room in the
Oh, good
schedule
Lord.
for a dialogue with the speakers. Please ask your questions and then kindly move on to the next individual.
Hi.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
hold
yeah.
on.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Am I the only one yelling?
If you're ready. Panelists, if you're ready, we'll take the first question. Panelists, if you're ready, we'll take the first question here.
So I know this question might run foul of common courtesies, but you bring up the wage gap. I wonder, how much were each of you paid to be here, if at all?
Why do you
well,
care?
obviously I'm independently hugely wealthy. I make more in a year than you will make probably in your lifetime, which is the market rewarding me for being talented, hardworking, charming, witty, successful, popular, and fabulous. If you want to know how much my tax return says, nice try.
Why is someone who likely has never paid federal income tax asking me about what I make to come out here? By the way, you're welcome. It's none of your business. Just like it's none of your business what Milo does in his bedroom or what I pay with my taxes.
I'm happy to tell you, but you might not want
Just
to
a
hear
perfect
it.
example. This guy feels entitled to know what our pay stub is for tonight. What is that? Is this 2016? Get out of here. Next question.
I hope these guys weren't paid 23% more than me. I'll make a fuss.
Actually, I insisted on it. I refused to appear unless you were paid 77 cents on the dollar. I don't think
Next
you knew that.
question.
Hi, so I'm bracing for booze here, but I'm a Democrat. I am the outgoing president of the UMass Democrats and nationally involved with the College Democrats of America. So I was just interested in what, I believe what Stephen mentioned, that Dr. Hoff-Summers, you're a lifelong Democrat. So my question is, as someone who strongly opposes a lot of the audience objections here tonight and finds agreement with you on many points, do you feel as though the Democratic Party and what we're talking about here, a lot of it is compatible?
Thank you for being civil, by the way.
It's a sad turn of events when you have to. It's a sad turn of events when you have to thank a liberal for being polite, but that's the world we live in. I'll give you a very
real liberals are polite.
well. You're all right.
I think the
I'll give you a
question
very
was
quick answer, which is the left. In my experience, the left historically is very bad at ejecting its own worst actors. The Democrat Party has always made space for race hustlers and feminist liars. In fact, it rewards them; it doesn't punish them. There's a
The
reason.
Republicans make room for some.
The Republicans
shady characters.
very rare. I mean, the Republicans make no room for racists, but Republicans make no room for anybody like that. They get ejected from public life, and there is a reason why in media all the plagiarism scandals happen on the left, because the left looks the other way, forgives and forgets, and tolerates its own worst actors. The stuff we've been talking about this evening is alive and well in the Democrat Party. Its equivalent on the far right does not exist in the Republican Party.
Yep.
Oh, but I just wanted to add, you interrupted a woman. He asked me a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was silenced.
Was I mansplaining?
You
Silencing
mansplained.
you? It's probably queer-splaining, isn't it?
Gay-splained.
Actually, wait. Do I beat
a good
you?
way.
Do I beat you? Because you're a Jewish woman.
Of a
I'm
certain
a
age.
gay Jew.
The shoulder.
I think you're confusing geography. You only beat her if she puts on the hijab. Oh, you write that up in your newspaper. Yeah, really, Islam is a race. It's an ideology. Muhammad beat the shit out of his 6-year-old wife, dummy.
Well, okay.
Let's try to
don't
remain
know.
on topic.
Okay, I just want to answer the question. Is that I am a lifelong. The Democratic Party is like my family religion, and it would destroy my parents if I were to register Republican. I cannot do that even at my age. Second thing, and I was a protester and a hippie leftist in the 60s, but that meant I was for free speech. We loved comedians were welcome. I mean, we had George Carlin, we had Lenny Bruce. They would not come near you people. The ones that are screeching.
Well, the comedians today won't go near you. Chris Rock won't go near you. Jerry Seinfeld won't go near you. Comedians who share your politics won't go near you. That should tell you something.
But the comedians, everyone that was for free speech, that seemed to me compassionate, that they were Democrats. And I still hope that's the case, but I worry that I don't think it's, I'm worried that the Democratic Party is going to have to absorb these radicals that are coming out of the colleges that have been indoctrinated with an illiberal philosophy, with no respect for due process, with no respect for the First Amendment, with no respect for all the traditions that are responsible for the greatness of this country, that make it the place where people all over the world dream of coming. We have this wonderful tradition we have to protect. It's not perfect. We make all sorts of mistakes, but it's a system that can correct itself, that can improve. And you have to understand it. And I'm very worried about that spirit being kept alive.
And I think it's, sorry, Stephen, but I hope that I can speak for both of us when I say that neither of us has any sympathy either with the religious right of the 90s, who were the authoritarian instinct then. Stephen may,
neither do I.
Stephen may have different views on this.
No, I don't. As a matter of fact, I was
sorry to cut you off. We're going to try to get through as many questions
Well, one
as we
second,
can.
because that's important. Well, good example. You bring that up. You know, when it comes down to South Park, I actually was there to hear Trey Stone and Matt Parker speaking, and they talked about how Christians actually just didn't want South Park on at 8 o'clock at night. It wasn't the same as when they did the episode of Muhammad where it had to get pulled. Listen, you leftists often told Christians, if you don't like it, change the channel. I agree. Yet leftists got up this morning, came in here, and decided to be so self-important that they screwed everybody else in the audience who wanted to hear people speak. That's 5 steps further.
And I would caution anyone here against trying any sort of lazy pigeonholing, because it just ain't going to fly with us. The left for 30 years has been so lazy, they haven't really had to make arguments. They've just said, oh, don't listen to him, he's a misogynist. Don't listen to her, she's got internalized misogyny. It isn't going to work anymore. These slogans don't work now. Nobody believes you. It doesn't stop the events from happening. You're not persuading anyone in the audience. It doesn't work anymore. I'm a Brit. I don't even vote here. Christina is a Democrat. We have no more love for the authoritarian religious right in the 90s who, for instance, were saying that video games could make you violent and prompted school shootings. Bollocks. Than we do for the progressives today who say video games can make you sexist. Also bollocks. What we believe in is the free, open exchange of ideas. And if you believe in an open marketplace of ideas, creative freedom, intellectual diversity, today your enemy is the progressive left. There is no alternative.
Moving on to our next question.
Stephen, this one's for you. In the recent weeks, Emory University, I think it was, hold chalk. Do you think chalk writings would be backed by the First or Second Amendment?
Shock writings?
Yes, well, it's deemed to be dangerous now, so I don't know if that's Second Amendment
weapon.
first.
Wait, shock writings?
The chalk. On the
Weaponized
Oh,
chalk.
chalk. I thought you said shock. I was thinking like shock writings. You know what's
weaponized
funny?
chalk.
I actually tweeted out a picture. There was one that said, words hurt, safe space is necessary. And I'm not kidding. It was written by the one registered sex offender on the block with a Bernie sign. That's true. Go on Twitter. It's absolutely true. I don't know. I don't think leftists have an understanding of the First Amendment nor the Second Amendment. I was on Russia Today one time, and they were asking about the Second Amendment because you bring that up. And I said, well, why is the Second Amendment so important? You're like, why do you think the right to own a gun is like as important as free speech? I said, because it's literally right up there with the right to freedom of speech. That's number one. It's protected by number two. As far as the chalk writing, I don't know. It's silly. And if you're a grown adult who gets offended by someone putting something in chalk, you probably have no business being in the workforce or college.
Okay, moving on to our next question, if you'd like to step up here.
Hey, so actually, I was going to ask about chalk as well, because we just recently had an incident on this campus about a week and a half ago, where someone actually wrote "Stop Islam" on one of the buildings, like really, really big. They did like a detailed art piece for it. And so, you, Milo, you said the best way to deal with people you don't agree with is to give them the full spotlight. And you, Christina, you said no intellectual diversity at an institution of higher education. And I'm sorry, you spoke so fast I couldn't quote you. But so my question for you is that in light of Trump coming out and talking against Islam, rates of violence against Islam rising about 418% in this time period, higher than they were after 9/11, which is amazing. They're higher than after 9/11. We saw a lot of repercussions on this campus about a week ago, where some of my friends got beat up, where people got threatened over the Stop Islam. And so I'm wondering where you guys think that opinions turn into hate speech and where that line should be drawn.
Well, your Muslim friends got beaten up because of chalk?
Amazingly, one of my friends who's not even Muslim was defined as Muslim because he dressed a certain way, and he's changed the way he dresses now.
Well, listen, nobody would ever condone beating somebody up because they dress a certain way. By the way, sometimes when I say stuff, it's a joke, okay? We used to be able to make those. Listen, if people want to talk about stopping rape culture, in the time you just took to ask that question, there were probably a dozen women who were raped in the name of Islam in the Middle East right then. And there were tons of people killed. So listen, no one is condoning violence against Islam. Obviously it's a silly litmus test as far as Donald Trump saying ban all Muslims, and it makes it hard for people like me who've argued against the ideology of Islam. I think if you want to learn about the ideology of Islam, open the Quran, read 5 pages in any direction, and you will be... Yeah, we've had Muslims on my show many times. Guess what? I didn't like what they had to say. Okay? No, it's not my problem. It's my opinion. I don't like it. I didn't speak on your behalf. I talked about the Quran. Guess what? I wasn't there for the French Revolution. I can talk about it.
Everybody has a right.
And
if people are beating up Muslims, that's bad. The ideology of Islam has been bad for the last several decades, and it's not hate speech to say so. It's not racist. It's an ideology in a prescribed form of religion and law, and I don't like it.
Like any other set of ideas, Islam is a set of ideas, and like any other set of ideas, we are perfectly entitled to interrogate it and find it wanting. I personally find it wanting. I would also like to say, as a gay person, I am fucking terrified by mass Muslim immigration because the homophobia in the Islamic community, in the Ummah, is not restricted to terrorists. It is not restricted to ISIS. 51% of British Muslims believe that gay sex should be against the law. This is not Muslims in Syria. This is not Muslims in Raqqa. This is Muslims who live 3 streets away from me. Every other one of them believes that my lifestyle should be illegal. 39% of British Muslims believe that a woman should always obey her husband. Where the fuck are feminists on that? 25%. 25% of British Muslims believe that Sharia law should be instituted, which under certain circumstances treats a woman's...
Milo, he's trying to narrow in on a question.
Well, I'm going to finish. Treats a woman's testimony as worth half of a man's. The Queers for Palestine, possibly the stupidest people to walk the face of the earth, overlook the statistic that 97% of Palestinians believe that homosexuality is an unacceptable lifestyle choice. I'm not scared by terrorists, I'm scared by Islam.
Moving on to our next question here.
When does free speech become hate speech is the basic question, right? Yeah, that's a silly question. Hate speech is a figment of your imagination. If someone says something you don't like, you don't get to label it hate speech. That's it. No, call to action is not allowed. If I say, hey, I'm going to punch you in the face, and I do it, that's not speech, that's an action. If someone says, gosh, I really don't like your face, and it would be nice if it were punched, but I would never do it, is very different. People should be able to say what they want. If you don't like it, walk out, change the channel. We don't believe in hate speech. We answered your question. Leave. Who was beat up because of what I said? Your friend was beat up because of something that I said? That's what we call being unable to substantiate an argument, Mr. Tank Top. Get out.
We have to move on to other questions. We'll take our next question here.
Shame on your delts. Put a shirt on.
Shame on your stylist, darling.
We'll take our next question right here.
All right, so...
Please refrain from interruptions.
Get in line. They will answer your question.
All right, so I wanted to start off. All right, so I wanted to start off saying thank you for coming here and dealing with garbage like this and just like keep on stopping. All right, anyway. All right, so my question is, there's clearly a little bit part of the gender gap is because of the choices of the majors that people go into. And I was wondering if you could choose one major to really tell people to steer away from so they can stop being this really ridiculous stat. Which one would you suggest to get rid of at a university?
Gender studies should be abolished in all publicly funded universities. Students who go to study gender studies, particularly at federal funded universities, come out dumber than when they went in. They come out believing lies. They come out with their critical faculties impaired, not improved. They come out more fragile than they arrived. They come out less able to have stable relationships with people, less able to cope in the world of work, less able to be functional, well-rounded human beings. Gender studies departments are damaging young people. They should be shut down.
Well, okay, yeah. I would just suggest that some of you will think that we're overstating our position, and I suggest you watch a weekly video blog that I have called The Factual Feminist. And each week I try to, using the best sources I can, to tell the truth on gender issues, to correct myths, to correct hyperbole, and to suggest that this particular philosophy is not only in terms of the wage gap, not only does it misunderstand the wage gap, the typical teachings of gender study, and not only are you likely never to close the gap if you study something like that, but it's also, as Milo said, I see this very bitter, divisive, paranoid philosophy. It's ideology pretending to be scholarship. It's propaganda pretending to be fact. And history, and I urge some of the radicals in the room, because you're not always going to be radical. Some of you will change. Some of the best anti-Marxists were once Marxists, so I'm waiting for you to, emerge.
We'll take you in, don't worry.
We'll take you in. We're friendly. We're nice. We won't yell at you. But the thing is, a lot of you want to be, I see the passion and I see the earnestness, and you're young, you want to change the world, you want to do it now, and you're on the right side of justice, and you think that, but here's the thing, if you're on the right side of justice, history suggests you need a good grasp of reality. If you've got moral energy and you've got reality and truth, you will make progress. You'll be Martin Luther King, you'll be Gandhi, you'll be, the women's rights movement, they got the vote, and the second, but history also shows us a different kind of activism, where you have moral fervor and misinformation, moral fervor, propaganda. That is conducive to fanaticism. That is conducive to zealotry. And what I'm seeing on the campus and in this room tonight is the zealotry, the fanaticism, this eagerness to shut people down, this eagerness to silence, to censor. You've got to rethink it.
If you want to close the gender pay gap, women should start lining up for trade school to go roofing in Florida in the summer. They can't hire you fast enough. Problem solved.
I'd like to build on what Christina said. Most of the people causing trouble in this room are 20 years old? You don't know anything. You don't know anything. So I would encourage, and I don't mean that to be offensive, although, if you take it as that, I don't give a shit. But why not try, you mentioned Socrates earlier, why not try one of the great virtues of the Greek philosophers, intellectual humility? Why not consider the possibility that somebody else might have something to add to your view of the world? Why not consider the possibility, the radical notion, that you could be wrong?
Moving on.
Okay, I was just wondering what you guys thought about the use of harsh rhetoric, like racist, homophobe, stuff like that, and how that can lead to almost justifying violence against certain people of certain beliefs.
Well, that absolutely happened this week at American University. The same kind of dumb horse shit. And on camera, I'm the less conciliatory member of the panel. It is dumb horse shit, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. But that, for the first time, I think, at one of my talks, somebody who just was walking through the crowd here to see my talk was assaulted by a, of course, spoiled brat rich kid social justice warrior, some preening little fag. Made me ashamed to suck dick, frankly. Who walked up behind him like the fucking coward he is, shoved him. This guy is like jacked as fuck, so he turns around and goes, "Bro, really?" And the little fag goes, "Ooh, I don't mind." And it was a comedic spectacle, but it was also a crime. And it was an example of zealotry that you're talking about spilling over into physical violence. And I will tell you something, you hear rubbish in the media about, violence and all this stuff at Trump rallies, the KKK, the Nazi outfits, every single fucking one of them is a hoax perpetrated by the left. You see stuff about violence, I'll tell you. The violence is coming not from the right, but from the left. And it is informed and justified in the minds of activists by this zealotry.
Yep.
And it has just started to tip over in my tour. And I have to tell these kids they are going to destroy their lives if they believe that the kind of yelling and screaming that sometimes tips over into physical altercations, which does not come from Trump supporters, does not come from libertarians, does not come from conservatives, comes exclusively and only on campuses from the left. If you think this stuff is justified, you are going to destroy the rest of your life on the basis of an ideology that is not rooted in fact. I urge you to reconsider.
And I'd like to add one quick thing. Quick thing.
From here on out, though, let's keep it to one response.
Okay, sorry.
For each question.
It's a great example that Milo is drawing here, and he talked about people saying racist or homophobic things. Let me ask people in the audience, if you had the ability to travel back in time and stop someone like Hitler, right? Everyone here would do it, left or right. I'm giving, of course, everyone the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because he was racist. He wanted to execute gays. Well, Che Guevara as well, but you put him on a t-shirt. The point is, he was a person who everyone agrees is a vile, horrific human being. Listen, nobody here has espoused anything along those lines tonight. Not even close. But I tell you what, you want to talk about violence? If you call someone racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, call them a hate monger, and you make them out to be subhuman, it's okay to treat conservatives inhumanely. And that's your problem right there. You want to talk about who's treating who violently? When you paint someone as bad as Hitler fascist, well, guess what? You have what happened at Milo's tour. So maybe take a look in the mirror.
Next question.
Hi. I have a two-part question. UMass. Oh, okay, one part. How UMass GOP? You might be able to speak to this. How long did it take to soak those chairs in the blood of Muslims and rape survivors? And how does it feel to be sitting on that bloody history?
We don't
Next question, thank you.
Yeah.
If you want to talk.
Q&A is not an opportunity for grandstanding. It's an opportunity for you to ask questions about what you've heard.
I think the questioner's a little confused. Next question.
Next question.
Hi, yeah, I wanted to ask if you guys were aware of the things that you said before about Islam, and I wonder if you guys are aware of how that contributes to acts of violence against Muslim people and Islamophobia, but you kind of already answered it, so let me just say, fuck Trump and Black Lives Matter.
And, sir, I have a question.
Change my worldview.
Are you concerned with the real rise of anti-Semitism on campus? And that at Columbia University, at Oberlin College, there are Jewish kids who are, there are threats now.
It's an amazing
to their
loss
safety.
of perspective. You have these advocacy statistics about the supposed explosion of Islamophobia, which basically always boils down to hijab pulling. Like people forgotten 9/11. I mean, are you people too young to remember that buildings were brought down in New York, Belgium a couple of weeks ago, Paris a few months before that, and you're worried about a bit of hijab pulling? Get a fucking grip.
Why do you feel compelled to defend an ideology that would throw you off a roof for looking like Rachel Maddow?
Oh, and by the way, it's not just terrorists. It is 10, 11, 12 mainstream Muslim countries that would execute me for being gay. This is not terrorism. This is Islam, and I am entitled to dislike it.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next question.
My question is for Steven. On campus, we have this group called Divest the Rest, and its goal is to get UMass out of the oil and natural gas industry. And so I've attended many of the protests just to humor myself. And so during those protests, they call for the union of themselves with Black Lives Matter, with feminists, with $15 wage gap. So what is your perspective on the fact that these groups that have absolutely nothing to do with each other, why do they band together?
Well, it's strength in numbers, ironically, with a bunch of people who have no fundamental understanding of economics wanting to decide how an entire industry is run. Also, double secret irony, these people show up with the horn-rimmed glasses that come to you courtesy of petroleum while they bitch about smart cars. So I think it's silly, and these people don't understand economics.
The problem with the modern progressive movement is it's run out of things to fight for. Feminism has nothing left to fight for. The gays have nothing left to fight for. And so, you know, you have an ever-dwindling number of ever more hysterical people who have to band together in order to get anything done at all. And they have this idea intersectionality, which basically means some people's lives are shit for multiple reasons. And an attempt to kind of band together the problems of a bunch of different disparate groups that have nothing to do with one another. It is the sign of a movement in its death throes, shrieking out in pain and desperately looking for friends to remain relevant.
To the next question.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Yeah, that's horseshit.
I'm a student originally from Spain, but I study for my degree in Manchester in the UK, and in my experience, these movements are political correctness gone mad, safe spaces are quite unique to the Anglosphere. So I was hoping if you could shed some light on why that may be. Is this not a correct perception? But I've found them to not exist outside.
To who?
Milo, please. Since he's a
in
Brit.
the Anglosphere, you said.
Yeah. The Anglosphere.
Yes.
Let me take this one briefly.
Mainly, I mean, it's obviously very, very big on American campuses. But I've also seen it in the UK, but I haven't really seen it outside that.
So I was scheduled to debate at Manchester, and both me and my interlocutor were both banned from the college campus. Well, fine, but my feminist opponent in the debate, the title of the debate was, "Does Feminism Have a Problem with Free Speech?" There is
debating
Julie Bindel, a lesbian feminist. I mean, she's your typical butch dyke with the cardigan
Smoker.
and the mothball. No, she's always got joint holes in a cardigan.
If we can move on, we're going to try to get as many questions in.
All right.
Stinking of cat piss. I'm going to keep going. No, I mean, the problem in Europe is that there are multiple pressures on free speech. Many people in Europe do not appreciate the value and significance of something like a First Amendment because they haven't grown up with it. It is way worse in Britain. The difference, I think, between Britain and America is in England, they'll ban you and you'll never get onto campus, and the faculty will collude with the students to do that. Here, the faculty will grudgingly allow you to do it because they can't really say no because of the First Amendment, but then you get the idiot brigade.
So this is, I guess, directed more at Mr. Yiannopoulos and Mr. Crowder, and this is pertaining to the BDS movement and the radical left. And would you agree that across the European continent, and to a degree in America, the radical left, such as, for example, the Green Party in Sweden, or for Labour in the UK with Jeremy Corbyn, have entered some sort of an alliance with radical Islamists due to mutual animosity towards Israel, the Jewish people's right to self-determination, and more broadly, the idea of the nation-state?
Yes, and the West in general. Western capitalist free democracy. They don't like it. Feminists don't like it, and neither do Islamists. And they want a world that looks quite similar. They want women to cover up. They want all sorts of things that look very similar. Radical feminism of today and Islamism don't look that different. They all hate the West.
Well, think about it. Just here we had feminists and we had people who were angry about Muslim clapping if they heard that you were banned on campus. It's no different than book burning. These people are claiming that we're racist fascists, and they're clapping when someone isn't even allowed to speak, and they think somehow it's altruistic. So, of course, these people have no priorities as it relates to free speech.
And
it's just a hierarchy. Okay, black people here, gay people here, but not Milo. Let's move him over here. And then Islam, and then, I don't know, transsexual bathrooms. There's no principle to it. So every day it's about who's the worst
look at the unholy alliance between people who are complained about offense taking on behalf of Muslims. Don't say the wrong thing about Islam. I mean, we'll blow you up, we'll kill you, we'll throw you off a roof, we'll hang you from a crane in Iran. But, don't say don't say that Muhammad married a 9-year-old. Fuck off. And in addition, they make common cause with the most noxious and terrible feminists. You see the results of this, and just observe how they behave to the minority groups they claim to represent, to the people they claim to be giving a voice to, when those people step off ideological reservation. Look at the disgusting language used about Margaret Thatcher, Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann. You might not like those politicians, but look at the kind of sexually charged, lurid language used by the left against women who don't sign up to the
Well,
sisterhood.
Dr. Summers, they do it with her all the time.
And look at what's happened this evening, the lack of respect and courtesy, the bizarre allegations of racism, who even knows where that came from. Look at how I'm treated. Look at how Ben Carson, who was destroyed by the liberal press, look at Clarence Thomas or Thomas Sowell, the way the left speaks about people who demand the right to believe what they believe and not sign up to the left's idea of what you should believe according to your body parts or your skin color is truly disgusting.
Unfortunately, we only have time for one more question, so we'll take the last question here.
Hey, let me just start off by saying I'm Muslim. I love America. I love democracy. I don't agree with what you guys are saying, but I support your right to say it as much as I support
Thank you, sir.
protest. Thank you. Mr. Crowder, you have had a number of, shall I call them, inflammatory videos titled, "There's no such thing as moderate Islam." How can you make such a definitive claim when the version of Islam that I practice, that my peers practice on a daily basis, is very moderate and differs from your perspective on the religion of Islam? Thank you very much.
I think that's a fair question, and I think it's one that deserves answering. People here talk about how racist, homophobic we are, how we mistreat women. Can you point me to any Islamic country that would meet the standards that they've set for people like us tonight? Any Islamic country that women are treated equal? No, we're not confusing politics. We're talking about anywhere where Islam congregates to achieve political power on planet Earth. Is there any bastion of freedom and equal rights in the Islamic world? The only place that people point to are places like UAE, Indonesia, where people are violently mistreated if they convert to Christianity, where women are mistreated. Listen, I think that there are a lot of great Muslims here in the United States who think as you do. But the fact is, that has never actually been rooted in a place of power in the moderate Islamic world. And when I talk about these videos... Yeah, well, unfortunately, Islam, unlike Christianity or Buddhism, is an actual political system. It is a prescribed system of law. It is not merely religious ideology. It is a prescription on a legal system of government, and that's why you see remarkably anti-freedom, anti-free speech, anti-woman, anti-gay legislation in every Islamic country on the world. I don't care what you have to say about it. I'm looking to their laws. Stop speaking, fascist, you're a great public spokeswoman for Muslims.
It's also worth considering in the light of what Stephen's saying, there isn't a single world-class university anywhere in the Muslim world. Not one. Why? Because there are structural problems with Islam that prevent this from happening. And you have
apply the same standard.
You have two kinds of Muslims in the U.S. Some of you aren't going to like this, but I'm going to tell you anyway because it's true. You have two kinds of Muslims in the U.S. You have nice, assimilated, middle-class Muslims who, let's be honest, aren't the most devout believers. They don't necessarily do namaz. So some of them don't pray 5 times a day. They drink, they smoke, they have sex outside, whatever. Let's just say they're cultural Muslims. Like I might be a cultural Catholic, perhaps you might say, right? These are not people who pray 5 times a day. You have these people, and you have them here because you don't border any Muslim countries. You need to take an intercontinental flight to get here, which limits the sort of people who can arrive. So you get nice, middle to upper class Muslims from nice families who are westernized and assimilated, and they're your friends. And you think, gosh, these people are saying such terrible things about Muslims, but I know so many nice Muslims, that can't be true. Well, it's because of where you are in the world, right? So you have those nice middle and upper class Muslims, and you have terrorists. That's all you have here.
I don't have a problem with you.
What you don't have here is what Germany has. 1.4 million Syrian refugees, or should I say migrants, who come in, commit the most appalling crimes and abuses against women, homosexuals, trans people. You've got nothing to say about that, by the way. What you don't have is a massive influx of working-class Muslim populations, and it will come, and it is coming, and when it does, you will think very differently about this.
One final thing, because I do appreciate taking the question. It'd be 2 phrases. Listen, my problem is not, of course, there are plenty of great Muslims out there. Not every Muslim is a terrorist. It's important for people to note that. Muhammad was. And I have a problem with that. If you look and read about Muhammad's life, he called for the deaths of Christians and Jews. I have a problem with that. And you know what? That's okay. Just like atheists have a problem with Christianity.
At this point, we'll conclude our question and answer section. One final round of applause for our speakers. Thank you. That's all we have for you tonight. If you would like to stick around, If you would like to stick around
wanna
for
say hey,
pictures
by the
with
way,
our
my
speakers, we'll be
suggestion is-
forming a line here. We have a half hour
Yeah.
to grab a selfie.
Maybe
with
if
the speakers
Stephen
on
goes
stage.
here, Christina goes in the middle, I'll go here. So depending on who you want to say hi to first, Stephen, Christina, me.